What's up, everybody? Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. I'm Noah Strackbein. Find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talk or anywhere you get your podcasts. Today, we're talking about the arrival of Diontae Johnson at Steelers OTAs and whether or not the team should consider re-signing him or moving on. I think, truthfully, the biggest thing here is that he is here. Diontae Johnson showed up to OTAs. He didn't need to. Many didn't expect him to. And when he showed up, he basically said, hey, guys, look, I get that I'm getting a lot of hate on the internet. I get that people are making a big deal out of pretty much nothing because this is voluntary and I don't have to show up. I'm working hard somewhere, even if I'm not working hard here. That same argument can be made on the other side of the hand, saying, well, you have two new quarterbacks fighting for a job. You have a new offensive line. You just lost Juju Smith-Schuster. You have to help two rookies. And you should be here. So there's a coin flip there, and one that you can make an argument for on either side. Truthfully, voluntary means voluntary. Diontae Johnson didn't have to show up to OTAs at all. He could have showed up next week at mandatory minicamp and everything would have been fine. But he didn't. He's here. And he's saying, hey, guys, look, I'm going to get a whole week of practice in. I'm going to show everybody, hey, I'm still really good at football. I'm still the best wide receiver on this team. I'm not asking for $1 billion. I'm just here to work. And behind closed doors, yeah, maybe he's working on a contract. Maybe he's bringing up the fact that he would like to have a new contract and what his market value likely is. Here's the thing when it comes to re-signing Diontae Johnson or extending Diontae Johnson. There's a couple of factors. The biggest one is his value. Diontae Johnson's market value is over $20 million right now. And he should get over $20 million wherever he is, whether that's in Pittsburgh or somewhere else. Diontae Johnson's next contract should be $20+ million per season because that is what he is worth. But there's a difference between what you're worth on the market and what you are worth to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's not a negative thing. Every team values a player differently. Every team has priorities in how they value different players at different positions. The Pittsburgh Steelers always seem to pay that one wide receiver. Maybe that one wide receiver is Diontae Johnson. And truthfully, in today's market, with the salary cap set to go up again next offseason, it's not too far-fetched to say the Steelers value Diontae Johnson at $20 million a season. That's what wide receivers are worth these days. They can't do anything about that. Nobody could do anything about that. It's not as if it's hurting other teams to sign these guys to $20 million a season. That's how the salary cap works. It's fixed to increase so that teams can make adjustments to players' value and not take major hits. The NFL is a business, but it's a business designed for the teams. It's not a business designed for the players. You have to understand who works this business, who comes up with the rules for this business, who comes up with the money and the money regulations for this business. It's the teams. They're not going to take a big hit. And anybody who thinks that Diontae Johnson signing a $20 million contract means that the Steelers can't do things like extend Minkah Fitzpatrick or work on Cam Hayward's next contract next season or do things like go out and make another splash signing, or hopefully Mitchell Trubisky turns into something and they would like to keep him longer than 2 seasons. There's a million questions. None of them are impacted drastically enough by signing Diontae Johnson to $20 million a season. But like I said right at the beginning of this, it's not about what his market value is. It's about what the Pittsburgh Steelers value him as. The Steelers could look at Diontae Johnson and say, hey, look, you're worth $15 million in our eyes because we have this, and this to take care of in the next 2 years. And truthfully, we can move on without you and be okay. They could also look at him and say, you are the best wide receiver on this team. You are the crispest route runner on this team. You play the X position better than anybody that we have, and we value that position more than any other in a wide receiver room. So we're going to give you $20+ million a year. There's two sides to the argument, and there's factors within both sides. For one, George Pickens plays a big role in the decision of the future of Diontae Johnson. He's the only player on the Steelers right now that you could see replacing Diontae. Chase Claypool is not an X. You're not going to put Chase Claypool on the X and say, hey, go run super clean routes. Always be open, because that's what the X is. The X is a Antonio Brown. The X is a Diontae Johnson. It's a guy that will always be open. Diontae is always open. That's who the Steelers need. George Pickens runs clean enough routes as a rookie, so there's still improvement left to be made, but he runs clean enough routes to say, you can be the guy that replaces that position. That being said, George Pickens could also be the guy that replaces Chase Claypool's position in a year. He could also be the guy that plays across the field and is just a true X factor. George Pickens fits a lot of roles. He's also a rookie, and we have no idea what's going to happen once he actually hits a game field. I came on here a week ago, and said that George Pickens is already a star, and he looks like already a star. The dude should have been a first-round pick. His injury history, or maybe lack thereof, but one big injury, made teams say, no, can't do that. His attitude on the field made teams go, oh, no, can't do that. All I know about George Pickens is that he runs very clean routes. He is probably the fastest guy on the field when he has the ball in his hands. And he's nothing but polite. Every time I talk to him, he is nothing but polite. Guys talk. It's football. It's a contact sport. It's a sport that you put every bit of your heart into. Guys talk. That's okay. George Pickens wants to talk, let him talk. I don't think the Steelers see a problem with that. I don't see a problem with that. I don't think George Pickens sees a problem with that. And that's okay. So George Pickens could be that guy. George Pickens is a guy that they see as the future. It's just about where they see him in the future. Chase Claypool plays somewhat of a role. He's not going to replace Diontae Johnson. You're not going to move positions for Chase Claypool. But what you could do is look at Chase Claypool and say, he's probably going to be less expensive next year. He could be a dominant receiver. There's still plenty of growth. When it comes to his physical attributes, there's way more upside than anybody else on this team right now. Maybe he's the option to re-sign over Diontae Johnson. You never know. He could play a role. Diontae Johnson could also play a role. He's got drops. And you can't hide the fact that Diontae Johnson has drops in big moments. I make an argument all the time that, hey, players drop the football. And I firmly believe that. Players drop the football. Nobody's perfect. Diontae Johnson, time and time again, drops the football and then comes back and makes a big play to keep the Steelers back in the game. But there are times where he comes up with big drops. And even the most realistic one of us, and I try to be that guy, has to acknowledge that there are drops. And if you're going to pay somebody $20 million, you have to assure yourself that this guy is the guy you could count on every single time you throw him the football. Antonio Brown was the guy that you could rely on every single time you threw him the football. Whether it was fourth down, whether it was first down, whether it was the goal line on a game-winning drive that you needed to have a play on. Antonio Brown was the guy that you expected to have the ball in his hands and you expected to make a play. I'm not saying Diontae Johnson is Antonio Brown. He's not. Antonio Brown's the greatest Steelers wide receiver of all time. Props to him. But Diontae Johnson should be that next star because he's worth the next star money. He is. And wherever he goes next, if he isn't in Pittsburgh, he will be looked at as that next star. So no matter where he goes, he has to show, I could come up with the big play all the time. I will never make a mistake. And if I do make a mistake, it most certainly will not be in a crucial moment. That's where Diontae Johnson needs to sit. That's where his talent level needs to be. Right now, I don't believe that it's there, which is the biggest impact, the biggest factor in this entire argument, is the Pittsburgh Steelers might want to look at this and say, dude, we need a year of you not dropping the on crucial situations. We need a year of you never fumbling. We need a year of you to look at this game and for us to look at you and say, dude, you are an absolute superstar all around, not just in your route running ability, but all around. You make plays, you're open, you make people miss, you will turn something into or nothing into something. They need to see all of that. They've seen glimpses. They've seen some of this, some of that. And again, Diontae Johnson is a true wide receiver one in the NFL. I firmly believe that. But there's a difference between being a wide receiver one and being a superstar. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a lot of decisions to make in the next 2 years, and they're not going to pay a wide receiver one. They're going to pay a superstar. That's why they drafted George Pickens. Because if worst case scenario, they don't see Diontae Johnson as the future, they have somebody sitting on the sideline ready to be that next wide receiver one in the next 2 years, ready to try again at finding a superstar. This seems negative on Diontae. It's not. I truly believe and somewhat expect Diontae to have a season where everybody eats their words on him. I fully expect Diontae Johnson to come in here and show everybody that he is the best wide receiver in Pittsburgh and that he could be an absolute stud in the NFL. But he's got to be a star this season. Because if he's a star, there's no more arguments not to pay him $20+ million a season. If he's not a star and he's just a true wide receiver one, the Pittsburgh Steelers have to decide whether they value a wide receiver one high enough to pay them $20+ million, or if they're still looking for a superstar. It's an argument we'll make for a year. But truthfully, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they make the final call. That's the end of the argument. And in a year, 6 months, I don't expect it to happen this offseason. But in 6 months, in a year, they'll decide and they'll let us all know Diontae Johnson's either a star or just a wide receiver one. And at that point, we'll know. Is he worth $20 million in the Pittsburgh Steelers' eyes?